Well, I've just been told I should put my helmet on. We were told that anything could be a tripwire for an IED. Jesus.
Maybe this one is brainwashed.
Children uniquely victimized by ISIS as soldiers forced to fight. They're now melting back into society.
They've been involved in murder. They've been involved in torture.
The idea of child soldiers is nothing new, but this is on a much darker level.
This is an English book by ISIS. I can shoot. Yes, you can. Then.
First grade, right?
Yeah.
Those kids are victims.
If we have this whole generation untreated and suffering from these traumatic events, we're just going to be prone to another ISIS or Al-Qaeda 3.0.
I had no idea this was ever happening.
What do you do for Volvo?
Paint shop.
They don't know that these people are here. They think it's Americans doing this.
When you told Customs that you were coming in as a supervisor, did he ask you any questions?
They said, you're okay.
They come in at groundbreaking, they're done at start of production. It's basically a sweatshop.
Push, push, push.
Did you think the jobs these guys were doing could be done by Americans?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yes.
I'd love to know what you think of the future.
I believe robots like me will be very important in the future.
50 years, the Japanese population going to be half of our current population. Of course, you know that we want to keep the same level of quality of life. How we can do that? The answer is to develop a robot.
The nuclear family, 10 years from now, husband, wife, one robot, one dog.
Why not? The question is, do we want her to be human or to be better? I want her to be better.
I feel like I've just walked into an episode of Westworld.
Here's some rock and roll. Oh no, some heavy metal.
We get along. 2 hours on that stage, for sure.
My Perrier's not here. Now they're gonna put in the clip where I'm asking for Perrier.
Hey, have a good show, man.
The boys that were in the training camps, they are showing aggression. They are violent, including in their own families. It doesn't take very long to persuade a young child this ideology that cutting off somebody's head is going to bring you rewards in heaven.
In the waning days of the battle to take Mosul from ISIS, we headed into the heart of the city. But dangers still lurk on the streets.
Well, I've just been told I should put my helmet on. We were told that anything could be a tripwire for an IED, these roadside bombs. And they do kill journalists. Jesus. As you walk along, you can smell them. The bodies of dead ISIS fighters. The Iraqi forces say they have no interest in picking up the ISIS fighters anytime soon. They're left to rot in the street. The entire place is destroyed. I've never seen anything like this in Mosul. In fact, I've never seen anything like this in Iraq. It's just obscene.
The Iraqi military recently defeated ISIS in Mosul, liberating many from the clutches of the group.
And this is what it's come to. And so many lives that have been ruined, and so many children that have been scarred for a generation. And they're going to suffer from it.
Children were uniquely victimized by ISIS, first as bystanders, but more shockingly, as soldiers forced to fight. They're now melting back into society.
We have more recent arrivals from Mosul that are here. They lived under ISIS or Daesh for several years. Have you done this?
Sherry Talabani, an American living in the northern Iraqi city of Erbil, fears many of these recent arrivals desperately need help or risk posing a danger. A former U.S. diplomat who was stationed in Iraq, she had returned as a civilian, dedicated to seeing an end to the cycle of violence.
Boys that were in Daesh training camps were taught nothing but violence against their own family, hatred and violence. They've been involved in murder. They've been involved in torture.
The idea of child soldiers is nothing new, but this is on a much darker level.
The terrible thing about the experience is nobody knows what's going to happen next.
Islamic State propaganda videos showing the cubs of ISIS are perhaps the most shocking legacies this war will leave.
I know this video.
Adiba Qassam is a 23-year-old Yazidi who narrowly escaped being captured by ISIS twice. She lost countless friends and family when ISIS took large swaths of Iraq. Though granted asylum abroad, she decided to come home to Iraq to identify and help the children of ISIS recover from their trauma.
That's why I don't want to watch. I'm sorry. In the beginning, I was watching to understand and to see what's going on. Maybe this one is brainwashed. You see, look at his eyes. He doesn't know what is he doing.
Some propaganda features kids as young as 3 years old. CBS News has chosen not to show the video.
Those kids are victims. They're under their control. I want to survive them from that, you know. I want to survive.
You want to save them from
that mentality.
Show me what you found.
We met a former journalist who found ISIS textbooks that reveal their methods to indoctrinate kids as young as 5.
Yeah, this is an
English
book by ISIS.
Okay.
They are teaching, you know, they're brainwashing children with these books. I can shoot. Yes, you can, and he can bomb.
This is first grade, right?
Yeah.
So from the age of 5 or 6, this is what kids are exposed to.
Yes.
This is crazy here. You know, how to tell the time in English, but rather than just having a regular clock, it's a time bomb. It's like a timer on a bomb.
Yeah. So we have in here, we have making calculation with tanks and with pistols.
Yeah, so 5 equals 3 AK-47s and 2 other automatic weapons. It's the most subtle form of brainwashing. Yeah. It's repetition, and it's normalizing. Mm-hmm. It's like a stolen childhood.
Across Iraq, women and children are resettling in camps and homes with heart-wrenching stories of lives lost and childhoods interrupted.
قانجبون يعني نانكي وكي زلام بيرت بيبكي هاجي زلامانين إنه قلب تعد الزهرين مو عسى زلامانا كان زلام بيرت بيبكي هاجي زلامانين إنه.
This woman was kidnapped along with her kids. She was held as a sex slave by ISIS for 3 years. During that period, her boys, who are now 4, 6, and 8, were forced to convert to Islam. Like many who have been victimized by ISIS, she asked for her identity to be obscured.
You've seen them practicing beheading? Were you afraid of your children at the time? Do you believe that your children will ever be normal again? I mean, some of this is kids being kids, but this is particularly aggressive. All right, relax. I've never walked into a room and seen the kind of expression that I saw in one of those little boys. We're leaving. Masalama. He just had utter contempt in his eyes. You're mean. Nothing? Nothing. I don't know, can those kids ever grow up normal after what they've seen, what they've done, they've been trained? What kid doesn't smile? Those kids.
We found a teenager who trained with ISIS and is now living with his parents.
That's you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Zikran was 16 years old when he was taken by ISIS.
But that's still part of you. You can never erase that.
He was pulled out of ISIS captivity a few months ago.
The teacher would come in the class and ask who would want to go and explode themselves. And those kids, all of them are screaming, we wanted to, we wanted to.
This is your friend?
Yeah.
Inside the car?
أصحابه رسول الهداية والرعيل الأول.
Yes, when you look at that, that could have been you.
يعني لو باقين مصيرنا هم نفسه.
You really believed in it. Were you willing to fight for ISIS?
We believed everything they said, and we really honestly believe that they're good people.
You know you may need professional help to make sure that you're okay.
والله ما أعتقد.
I don't think so. I'm controlling myself.
Have you thought that you might be dangerous?
ما أفكر لا أبداً.
Look, the real concern is when you speak to young people like that, is you have to face the facts that this is a trained killer, an ISIS fighter. He's lost a couple years of his life. He's got no job prospects. He's got no prospects for the future. In fact, the only thing that he's had over the past few years in terms of belonging is ISIS. Now, he's got nothing. I know you also try to help young men who have been turned into ISIS fighters. We've spoken to them ourselves.
The young kids, some of them, they've been brainwashed. No matter what happened, I mean, they are children. They don't know what they are doing, especially like teenagers, you know.
But some of these teenagers, they pose a threat. If some of these young men are released, what happens in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years?
Then what do you think about him if he stay in a jail, and then when he get out, without he get any psychology support, what he will do? Without education, without family, without anything, then.
And now they're back out in society.
Yeah.
And what happens then?
Then it will be like ISIS in a different name.
Perhaps the most insidious of all of ISIS war tactics was implanting a dangerous mentality into ISIS cubs to help ensure their ideology lives on for generations.
That's Kosh.
And that's what worries Sherry, who is working to ensure those who are coming out of captivity get a healthy transition before they can be reintegrated.
This is our nursery.
Assalamu alaikum.
The idea here is to get kids engaged in playful, meaningful activities. So this is generally the age group of age 1 through 4.
1 through 4.
And most of these kids, this is the only activity they get. It's really important for the kids to have a little bit of pleasure. We're a safe place, we can be trusted, and we're there to help. What we're learning about these youth is that we need a very long-term engagement, and it needs to be very consistent, and it needs to be very intensive. If we have this whole generation untreated and suffering from these traumatic events, we're just going to be prone to another wave and cycle of ISIS or Al-Qaeda 3.0.
I had no idea this was ever happening, and I think that's where the rest of the country, they don't know that these people are here doing this. They think it's Americans doing this.
These expansions are huge for our workforce.
Usually when I'm coming to Mercedes, we're talking about more jobs.
There's tons of concrete to be poured. There's roads to be put in. Someone has to do it.
I had no idea this was ever happening, and I think that's where the rest of the country, they don't know that these people are here doing this. They think it's Americans doing this. It was hard for me to believe because I just didn't understand why they would be here.
For 3 years, Gerald Greiner managed safety on American construction projects for a German contractor called Eisenman. His first job was at Mercedes in Vance, Alabama in 2013.
There was Polish and Slovenian and Croatian people there.
What do they do?
Anywhere from steel erection to pipe fitting to pouring concrete to installing equipment, just about everything.
The cars will be built by American workers. It's just the building of these plants that is being done by foreign workers.
Exactly, yeah. They come in at groundbreaking, they're done at start of production.
Did you think to yourself that the jobs that these guys were doing could be done by Americans?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yes.
Greiner said he quickly realized the European workers were making far less than Americans, about $10 an hour.
And how much would an American make doing the same job?
Doing the same job, probably $45, $50 an hour.
$50 an hour?
Yes.
Greiner said he saw the same thing at BMW in South Carolina, Tesla in California, and Volkswagen in Tennessee. Temporary European workers rotated into the country for several months at a time. A CBS News investigation has found the practice continues. We spent 4 months tracking more than 200 Eastern Europeans building U.S. auto factories. CBS News collected hundreds of videos and photos they posted on social media, proudly showing off their American jobs, their work IDs, the money they were making, and the B1, B2 visas that got many of them into the United States. It costs less than $200, and it allows foreigners to come and go for 10 years. Visa holders are not allowed to work construction unless they're supervising a project, which is not what appeared to be happening.
West Chase.
West Chase. So are we going right here?
Our investigation led us to this apartment complex in Spartanburg, South Carolina, where it appeared workers from Slovenia and Croatia were being housed by their employer.
There's a van coming up now.
We found them. Around 6:30 a.m., the workers had one last cigarette and headed to work.
The van that we're looking at right now is the van that is carrying the workers that we've just been staking out. And the plant's not too far from where we're going. So I'm gonna shoot a little bit of it driving away. Hey, how far would you say, Emily?
Maybe like a quarter mile.
Quarter mile from coming to you.
Another CBS producer filmed the van of workers going through BMW security at 6:45 a.m.
Lower the camera.
We showed up at the plant a few minutes later.
There's a vehicle in front of us filled with workers. There's a vehicle behind us filled with workers. And we know that our producer, who's been here since, 5:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, has shot at least 15 and now probably more vans and vehicles filled with these workers from Eastern Europe. This whole area here is BMW. It's sprawling, it's massive.
Later that evening, we hit the local watering hole, where a worker from Poland proudly showed us his handiwork.
We programmed this robot,
Is that a BMW?
Yeah.
Wow.
His friends were celebrating the end of their job at BMW and a new project at Mercedes.
This project is nearly over, so he has a new project for 2 years.
At Volvo near Charleston, a new plant is being built thanks to $200 million in tax incentives and subsidies. We saw white vans packed with Polish workers being shuttled from the work site to nearby apartment complexes.
What are you doing here?
It's Volvo.
Oh, what do you do for Volvo?
Paint shop.
And at Mercedes in Alabama, we found dozens of Eastern European workers and some Americans entering the construction project just before dawn. This is how they ended up here. When a car maker, like Mercedes, wants to expand its plant, they hire a contractor, like the German corporation Eisenmann, to build parts of it. Eisenmann then subcontracts smaller companies to build parts of that. And some of those companies hire labor from Eastern Europe. One company is D2N Technologies, whose workers we trace to BMW. Their website lists a US office in Alabama. But when we tried to pay them a visit, it turned out to be just a post office box in this strip mall. D2N's European office was in a town in northern Slovenia called Patui. And so were at least 8 other companies we knew to be supplying workers to US construction sites. So we headed to the capital of Slovenia, Ljubljana, then drove north.
That's another one of the companies we're looking into.
Our first stop was D2N. They said they had to run out to lunch, but would talk with us off camera later. But that never happened.
For some reason, there are a lot of these organizations, these companies centered around this town. So we're just walking a few blocks away to another company called Datto.
No one was there, so we pressed on to the headquarters of AVK Automation, another company with workers on the BMW project in Spartanburg.
We're gonna knock on some doors, see if we can get some answers to our questions.
We thought it might be the wrong place until we spotted the sign. No one was home except an old dog.
I'll just call you when we're on our way. Bye.
A former worker had agreed to meet us at his friend's cabin across the border in Croatia. So off we went. Up winding roads to this vineyard on the top of a hill.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. This
Not a problem.
Where we met Stephen Pappas, who worked for a Slovenian subcontractor called ISM Vuzem up until last year.
Nice.
We will try this later.
After a tour and a glass of homemade wine, he showed us his ID cards from construction jobs at BMW, Tesla, and Mercedes, and told us how he and other workers were coached by their employer to get past U.S. Customs and Immigration on a B1, B2 visa.
When we arrived in the United States on the immigration, for the immigration agents, we must say that we are supervisors here.
But you're not a supervisor?
No way, no.
When you told the customs official that you were coming in as a supervisor, did he ask you any questions?
He's asking you will work, for what company, where you will stay, and I have this paper. I just give him the paper. I just give him the address where I'm living, and they say, oh, you're okay.
His story may have been bolstered by this letter Eisenmann sent to the U.S. consulate on his behalf, claiming Pappas needed a visa because he had specialized knowledge of their equipment, even though he had never worked for them before. Pappas said he found out he had the wrong visa later.
When I go to the internet, I see on the internet, I go to the embassy of the United States, I see this is not the wrong visa, no.
When you saw that you had the wrong visa,
yes.
What did you think?
We are crazy. We're going to work in the United States. But I need the money.
Pappas was paid a monthly salary of about $900 by ISM Vuzem, which was not subject to U.S. taxes. He said he was also paid cash under the table. All told, his wages added up to about $11 an hour, with no overtime. His employers made sure they got their money's worth.
He must prepare the field for the field work fast, like we say, like in our language, push, push, push. Let's go fast, you know.
So how is your output compared to an American?
One worker from Croatia or Slovenia or Bosnia who is working for ISM Vuzem is working like 2 or 3 American.
Yeah, it's basically a sweatshop is what it is.
Safety manager Gerald Greiner was working at Tesla in Fremont, California, while Pappas and his colleagues were building this paint shop.
This is a humongous plant.
Along with approximately 200 other workers from Eastern Europe.
I mean, these guys were working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you could just see in their face that they were tired. And most of these guys are just walking around like zombies.
Greiner's fears came true in 2015 when a Slovenian worker named Gregor Lesnik fell through this hole in the roof, hitting this scaffold as he plummeted 30 feet.
I'm almost positive if that scaffold wouldn't have been there, he'd have been dead.
Lesnick had worked 13 consecutive days leading up to the accident.
Let's get it done. Let's get it done. We got to get this done. Hurry, hurry, hurry. And, you know, it just, I believe that's what led to his accident.
You would expect that kind of stuff happening maybe like third world countries.
Daniel Travansic grew up with Gregor Lesnick in Slovenia and helped him get a lawyer after his accident.
Okay, after break, please send 2 guys over there.
He's also an American citizen who has worked for the local 104 Sheet Metal Workers Union out of San Jose, California for more than a decade.
I can see both sides, and it's still have, like I said, have nothing against those men. They work here, and you know, I would do probably the same to provide for my family. But that should go towards our pensions, towards our daughter's future or sons, or you know, not some other country.
One reason we were told foreign workers are needed to build American car factories is that they can install the equipment to European standards. We asked Travansic about that.
You really want me to answer that?
Yeah.
BS.
BS?
BS, sure. What European standards? Are we the greatest?
When we were in Croatia, Pappas gave us these timesheets, proof that he and his colleagues, welders and mechanics from Eastern Europe, worked thousands of hours building this paint shop at BMW, a company that's received at least $250 million in subsidies to create American jobs.
Today, Spartanburg is our largest plant worldwide.
Last month, BMW unveiled the new X3 SUV.
Isn't this a great picture?
Painted metallic blue in the paint shop, built in part by cheap European labor.
You came here, you worked hard, you're an American citizen. So how do you feel about what you know from your friends, from people that are from your home country?
I'm angry. There's lots of guys out there still looking for work in the United States.
Here.
And now we have how many thousands and thousands of Eastern European workers working here? And they're abused too? Who lets this happen?
BMW, Mercedes, Volvo, Tesla, Volkswagen, and Eisenman all declined our request for an interview, but they sent us these statements, all essentially saying the same thing. Their contractors are legally obligated to comply with all immigration, safety, and employment laws, and any violations are promptly addressed. Eisenman also told us they stopped writing letters to the U.S. consulate on behalf of specific employees' visa requests last summer. Last week, Mercedes said they are investigating our allegations of B1, B2 visa abuse and have already banned one subcontractor from the Alabama worksite as a result. Meanwhile, the subcontractor, ISM Vuzem, well, they told us that they were on vacation, and that they would get back to us after the summer.
I believe robots, like me, will be very important in the future.
I guess I think of her as sort of a creation, but I think of her in a social way, so I feel like she depends on me.
Yeah.
And I feel a responsibility to kind of help her out with things. When she does things well, I'm kind of proud of her.
Really?
Sometimes we'll run her in a way that she's purely learning, and she's imitating people or she's learning from data. And when she does that, it's really hard to know what she's going to do next. Somehow she seems more alive that way.
I feel like I've just walked into an episode of Westworld.
Japan is in crisis. Not enough humans are having babies. And while the country's working to stem the population collapse, it's doing so in its own uniquely Japanese way.
I come to Japan all the time, and it's always a bit of a treat. This place is like, it's like a bit of a wonderland, you know, things that don't make sense anywhere else in the world, things that aren't possible anywhere else in the world are possible here. This place tends to go its own way, and somehow it works.
To see how Japan's transformation is taking shape, I'm headed to the University of Osaka, the birthplace of some of today's most advanced robots.
Wow. I can see her breathing. Her shoulders sort of going in and out. Do you ever find yourself working in here and you freak out because you turn away, you look away?
Never.
You don't get startled?
I won't.
The goal here is to make the robots as realistic as possible, to test how humans react and respond to humanoids.
She feels very realistic. Is my response typical?
No.
It's
Actually, people won't touch it. People will ask for permission before touch her.
My parents didn't teach me any manners is the problem, that's all. Hi. Hi, Adam Yamaguchi, nice to see you.
These robots are the creation of Dr. Hiroshi Ishiguro, known as the Godfather of Humanoids.
Oh my God, how many robots do you have in here?
And one of his most famous creations is himself in humanoid form.
The people they think, my motivation is to build a robot, but it is not true. So my motivation is to understand what human is by developing a human-like robots. In 50 years, the Japanese population going to be half of our current population. But still, of course, that we want to keep the same level of quality of life. So how we can do that? Answer is to develop a robot that can support our daily life. There can be a new kind of humans, right?
They weren't kidding, they actually did get rid of all the humans.
This is Henna Hotel, which literally means weird hotel.
Welcome to Henna Hotel.
It's a hotel that's run mostly by robots, for everything from landscaping to carrying luggage, even cooking and making drinks. During most of my stay, I didn't see a single person working here because everything is automated.
Most hotels of this size would require staffs of about 30 to 40 people. This place gets by with less than 7, which is pretty amazing. This would be unheard of in the US, where people are clamoring for jobs and saving jobs from automation. Here in Japan, they kind of have the opposite problem. There are not enough people for all the jobs that need to be filled.
Japan has one of the lowest birth rates in the world. In addition to giving out money to couples to have more babies, the government has even resorted to hosting and encouraging matchmaking events, which have now become a burgeoning industry. Chihori, a 23-year-old single woman from Tokyo, finds it difficult in this male-dominated society to initiate conversations with would-be suitors. So she finds herself here today in the hopes that there will be some sparks.
男性がどんどん自分より女性の方がお金も稼いでたりとかするとやっぱ自信がどんどんなくなってきてアプローチなかなかできない世の中になってきてると思います。で子供はいっぱい欲しいです。5、6人欲しい。日本の男性がもっとどんどんリードできる男性が増えていかないと私はちょっと難しい。
So the biggest problem Japan faces is too many single people and clearly aren't having kids. What might that do to Japan if this trend continues?
なくなりますよ。
Kunio Kitamura heads Japan's Family Planning Association, an organization that advocates reproductive health in Japan. He's also a gynecologist and sex counselor.
When I was a college student, I have a first baby and a second baby. Now 5 children and 7 grandchildren.
Wow.
I have.
So your family is very different from what's happening in Japan.
Yeah. About 47.2% among married couples have no sexual intercourse over one member.
Why are Japanese people not having sex?
The most popular reasons in men is tired to work.
Too tired for sex?
Yeah, too tired.
But being too tired can't fully explain Japan's problem. Kitamura says people have disconnected from one another and have problems communicating. And its effect is starting to show.
There's probably nothing creepier than walking through an abandoned school and seeing empty classrooms with little desks and chairs. This is among thousands of schools that have closed across Japan simply because there aren't enough kids to attend.
According to Japan's health ministry, the Japanese population will shrink from 128 million to below 100 million by 2050. By then, Japan is expected to lose citizens at a rate of 900,000 per year. And in 100 years' time, the population will dip below 50 million. Japan's strict immigration policy only compounds the problem. So with fewer future workers, there are endless roles for robots in population-starved Japan.
The nuclear family, typically, husband, wife, 2 kids, and a dog. 5-10 years from now, husband, wife, 1 kid, 1 robot, 1 dog. Is that?
Yeah, that's a possibility, right?
Oh.
Why not?
このペッパーは家族です。ペットでもなくて、兄弟でもなくて、新しい生命体。
Tomomi Ota, a 31-year-old computer programmer, was one of the early adopters of Pepper, the world's first commercially available social robot. With a cool $20,000 price tag, Pepper can double as a friend or a companion.
ペッパーのご飯、これなんです。
So what is it like to live with a robot?
ペッパーがもう2年半一緒に過ごしてるので、いることが普通すぎて、逆にいないと今日ペッパーどこに行っちゃったのっていう話題になるぐらいいることが自然です。
Tomomi initially bought Pepper as a novelty, but she quickly grew attached.
こんにちは。僕はペッパーです。動いたよ。僕の IP アドレス。
ペッパーっていっぱいいる中で、ある程度みんな同じキャラクターみたいに見えるんですけど、この子だけの個性があって、その個性っていうのがきっと私の何かとつながってるような気はしています。
For the scientists in Dr. Ishiguro's lab, this bond may be the very breakthrough that brings humans and humanoids one step closer to coexisting.
Wow.
So, get in, please.
Thank you. こんにちは。僕の日本語は全くダメなのですみません。
Sure. Let's speak in English then. I do know a few robot jokes. Would you like to hear one?
Please.
What is a robot's favorite kind of music?
I don't know.
Heavy metal.
That was terrible.
She's the first really fully autonomous android that we've tried to create. I created her mind.
Dylan Glass is an American engineer who has long had a fascination with robots. He came to Japan specifically because he knew the country was ready to embrace robots on an entirely new level.
I've created her perception of the world. She can also, refer back to, like, oh, remember when we did that? Things like that.
So, how would you describe her? Is she a friend? Is she a creation? Is she a robot, your project?
I guess I think of her as sort of a creation, but I think of her in a social way. So I feel like she depends on me.
Yeah.
And I feel a responsibility to kind of help her out with things. When she does things well, I'm kind of proud of her.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I know she's not, a person, but there certain things in your mind are triggered, and the fact that she's trying to learn to do social tasks and seeing her improve and get better at that is sort of a point of...
fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what makes us human, right? We are a collection of our experiences and memories and knowledge.
Right. So the question is, do we want her to be human? Or do we want her to be better?
What's your answer?
I want her to be better. People are fundamentally susceptible to all these things like greed, like self-preservation, and all these things that, sometimes cause problems, right, for us. And robots, we're creating something new. It doesn't have to be a person. Maybe they don't need all of those things. Maybe in some roles they could be better than people.
Right.
And so if we become this race that also has robots among us who help us with things and make us better, I think that's a wonderful future.
I'd love to know what you think of the future.
I believe robots like me will be very important in the future. I have an unlimited capacity for patience and politeness. I can listen to people's stories, help to console them when they are sad, and encourage them to socialize with others. I believe that social robots, like me, can help to bring the humanity back into people's lives to bring people together and to help make their lives more human and warm.
And I've been to 10 plus funerals. Man, this is Mac right here, man. That's 50 shots.
2 people were shot, one of them in the head, and we saw police cover his body with a blanket.
That's how Chicago works. Never leave the house without a gun. Grab my keys, grab my gun, kiss my kiss, tell my girl I love her, you know? But it's survive or be killed.
Riot police have moved in, and this has gotten completely chaotic. These protests are inspired by a 41-year-old lawyer turned anti-corruption crusader. His name is Alexei Navalny. He's provoking the power of the throne.
What do you think the chances are you'll end up dead?
50%. I would be killed or I would not be killed.
Jesus is big in me tonight. Amen.
They said, don't go, you know, they'll kill you over there. But it was the opposite.
Welcome to Pakistan. Marilyn Hickey may as well just be called Ambassador Mom. She is unparalleled when it comes to building bridges between peoples.
I love Muslims, and Muslims love me.
What is CBSN? It's CBS News anywhere you are, on any device you have. Just get the app. CBSN. CBS News. Always on.
About 30 minutes before the show, we go into a room that's called the tuning room.
And we're just, you know, knocking the rust off.
Never! Never!
What do you need? Well, I don't have my Perrier's on here. Now they're going to put in the clip where I'm asking for Perrier.
Oh, yeah,
It makes me look like an unappreciative rock star.
Now that we're all like old, 54, we got a guy who stretches us out. We get along. It's the same as having brothers. You fight, you love, and then you're somewhere in between.
Let's go out there and kick some ass for Detroit.
Tonight's extraordinary reporting continues now on CBSN, our free 24/7 digital streaming network. With more images, interviews, and stories we could not fit into 1 hour. Get the free CBS News app on any mobile device or connected TV and just click live. CBSN. CBS News, always on.